Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight we have a truly outstanding panel of state and local leaders to talk about local, state, and national issues. And with me tonight we have Senator Mike Barrett. How are you, Senator?
Happy to be here.
Thanks for being here. This is your 9th time on the show already, so not too bad.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm getting good practice.
One more, you'll hit double digits.
Nice.
And how many years have you been a state senator? I know you were a state senator in the 90s, right?
About 2 years and 10 months at this point.
In the new term, right? Because you had been a state senator
previously? Yes, I had, way back in the day in the 80s and 90s, and then I left for 18 years.
For 18 years, wow. How do you like it being back?
It's better. All they needed apparently was for me to leave the first time. They've gotten very good.
Good. So, well, thanks for being here, Senator. We have a lot to talk about tonight. We always look forward to hearing your opinions on everything.
Happy to do it.
I really enjoyed interviewing you at the Chelmsford Historical Society.
Yeah, that was a terrific event.
A couple of weeks ago. It's online.
Chelmsford does a great job.
If you saw the interview yet, it's online.
I have seen.
Anyway.
Yes, I have seen it.
Good.
You were nice enough to provide a little notice there, so thank you.
Great, thanks. And we also have with me Selectman Bob Joyce back in the show. How are you, Bob?
Great,
Bob. This is your 11th time on the show, Bob. So he's in double digits.
I'm in double digits.
All right.
See if I can make it to 20 by the end of the year.
Yeah, well, that'll be tough given the amount we're taping. But it's good to see you, Bob. You're the vice chairman of the Board of Selectmen here in Chelmsford now?
Yes, I am.
Great. How do you like being vice chair?
I enjoy it. It's basically the vice chairman's job is to make the motions, and then the clerk seconds them. So.
And the clerk is Laura Merrill?
Yeah, Laura Merrill is the clerk.
And
Matt Hanson is the
chair. Yeah.
And Matt won't be here for the town meeting, so I'll be acting as chair. So.
I heard that, Bob. That'll be nice, huh, for you. You'll be a front and center on everything. Yeah. Wonderful.
Done it before, so.
In fact, we'll be talking a little bit about the warrant articles later on in the show. That's what you'll be talking about, I think.
Yep.
Our town meeting is scheduled to begin about a week or two.
Right,
a week
Monday,
and a half.
next Monday.
On the 19th or something, yeah. Well, thanks for being here again, Bob.
Absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you. For the #1 appearances on the show tonight, we have State Representative Corey Atkins. How are you, Corey?
I'm terrific. How are you?
It's great to see you back here for the 16th time, I think, Corey. Yeah, 16th time.
Yeah.
So you could get your driver's license now. You're 16.
Oh, finally.
Well, it's always great to see you. I've also hosted a number of debates with you. Remember?
With
so many of your opponents are so interesting.
Right.
Those debates are some of my most enjoyable debates on this show that we've been doing over 20 years, as you know.
Yeah.
Remember yours? Dick McClure was one of them.
Right.
Then there was a couple of people from Carlisle.
There was one who was a selectman. I think he's still a selectman, Don Stevenson. Yeah.
The other one may have run against Carol Clevin many years ago that I'm thinking of from Carlisle, a young man. Mm-hmm. So I remember he was like a business person or whatever in Carlisle.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of interesting debates. Well, it's always fun to have you on the show, Corey.
Oh, it's always fun to be here.
And how many years has it been now you've been a state representative?
Well, I started in junior high school. It's been, I won a special in 1999. So
1999, so about 16 years approximately?
16 years, yeah.
Wow.
One for every year being on the show.
That's right. It's like one a year. What? Perfect
symmetry.
Symmetry, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, I thought we'd begin with what many people are talking about this year. I spend probably 20 to 40 hours a week on the national politics, and particularly the presidential campaign. That is both reading and watching political discussion shows, right? 20 to 40 hours a week.
I couldn't start this early.
No?
They dragged me into it kicking and screaming.
Oh, really? I find it fascinating.
I finally started, Trump. I mean, he's very entertaining if you don't think that he might actually be a national candidate.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, how about if I'll read the candidates for Republicans, and then we can talk about Donald Trump and others, and then we'll talk about the Democrats afterwards, okay?
Sounds good.
So I just thought I'd quickly read the top Republican candidates, because there's been a slew of them, and some have dropped out already. Some are going to drop off fairly soon. But here's like the top 9, I guess. Donald Trump is leading in the polls now, and has been for the past 4 months since he got in. Dr. Ben Carson is second in the polls, as you all know. And then it depends on which poll you're looking at. Senator Marco Rubio from Florida, Carly Fiorina, the former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, Senator Ted Cruz, then Jeb Bush, the former governor of Florida, the New Jersey current governor, Chris Christie, and the Ohio current governor, John Kasich. All of those candidates are running. We've had 2 Republican debates so far. I've watched every minute of both of them and enjoyed it tremendously, particularly because Donald Trump is making it so exciting. So I'll leave it just for an open discussion. If anybody would like to say anything about the Republican candidates.
Well, I'll just say that I think that Donald Trump has legs as a Republican candidate. I'm not dismissing him. Compared to Ben Carson, he's eminently sane. Now, granted, as a Democrat, we're talking about a spectrum of possibilities here, but Trump shows some self-awareness. He is able to laugh at himself, something that neither Ben Carson nor Carly Fiorina are able to do. Yeah. So my betting on the Republican side is either Marco Rubio or Donald Trump. And and I'm worried about my own party a little bit, the Democrats, and so I'm not dismissing the possibilities of a Republican in the final by any means.
Well, a Republican will be in the final as a nominee.
What I'm saying is I'm not assuming that the Republicans will nominate a loser, somebody who's so crazy that they'll turn everybody off. I think it's going to be a tough race.
Oh, yes, and very interesting. I think this is the most interesting presidential race since I've been following them since I've been like 18 years old. I think it's fascinating.
But the question is, how do they deal with Trump? I mean, he's got to have a voice at the table, even if he doesn't get the nomination.
You mean you're talking about the Republican Party?
Yeah, about the Republican.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think, now the one interesting thing, though, is that there was a New York Times piece this past weekend saying that Trump hates to lose, and that if he should start to run second to someone consistently, Bush, Rubio, that he'll have an exit strategy that he may execute at the blinking of an eyelash. Would he want to run second, laboriously picking up his share of delegates but not winning through a whole slew of primaries? Does he have that kind of staying power, or does he feel that it would hurt his brand? That's an interesting question. I don't know if he's in this for the long run.
He actually said that a month ago. They had it in a clip, He said it out of, it was words out of his own mouth. That if I find I'm not winning and that I start running second, I'm out.
That makes sense.
And he was like, I'm out of here.
The thing is,
I'm not wasting any more time or money on.
Yeah, if he's doing.
What doesn't quite compute, though, is that you can get the nomination by running second in a lot of places and first in some. So the problem with that, with the New York Times analysis, to my mind, is that he could be running first in terms of delegates, even after he takes a few second or third places. And if I were running first in terms of delegates on the Republican side and I were Donald Trump, I might decide sticking in makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting race.
I think he's talking about if he wasn't doing well at all. Like some of the people at the bottom there, or Chris Christie, or those Senator Lindsey Graham at like 1%. He was saying, if that was me, I wouldn't waste my time. I think that's what he was saying. So if he finds that he isn't doing well, he would leave, and that's just common sense, right? But then the press gets all over and starts putting, Donald Trump's talking about an exit strategy. So he's kind of right that the press kind of digs at him a little bit unfairly.
I'm surprised.
A little bit.
They do everybody. I mean, they do every presidential.
Especially if you're leading, right? Eventually you get those digs.
The front read.
I'm surprised that Jeb Bush isn't doing better. He was like the assumed, we've had that in local politics too. But he's,
I'm not too
with the
surprised,
history,
Bob.
with the family history. And
the family history, I think, maybe helps him not do so well. I mean, we've already had, two Bushes. In the recent history, it's not like 100, 200 years ago.
Right.
Very recent. The Bushes have been there for, there was 4 years for H.W. Bush and then 8 years for W. But that's 12 years within the past, like 20 or 24. That we've had a Bush as president.
You know what I sense from both parties, and it poses problems for Democrats too, is that I think the voters really feel that this year, in a sense, they're in control. They're capable of upsetting the establishment in both parties. You empower voters in
Donald
that
Trump
way.
made them feel that way.
And I think it's an
I hate to say
unacceptable
it.
result.
In Washington,
Yeah.
I think they got so fed up, and I don't blame them. And because I often think that if I were not in politics and didn't understand the machinations, I would vote to throw them all out too.
Right.
And the problem is, you throw some really good people out at the same
Right.
time.
Yes, yeah.
You got to pay a little bit more attention so that you know what you're doing.
Right,
But
right.
Washington has just
Right.
been
Yeah, it's
a
awful.
disaster.
If it-
And
yeah.
it's like everything we want from it is denied. And it, in the Trump's assertion that it's bought and paid for, I totally agree with 100%.
I know. That's a good thing about him, that he's self-funding his campaign, because let's
Well,
face
yes,
it, we
and
have the
no.
Koch brothers and
We don't get
others
to see how he's
Yeah.
throwing
you know,
in
yeah.
millions and multi-millions
right.
of dollars
It's
in
not
campaigns.
just the Koch
Of
brothers
course they're
either.
going to, yeah, no, so I'm saying.
Right.
There's about 150, there was just a report today.
and the
150
Times on
prominent
Sunday.
families.
Yeah, 122.
Put in about
Yep.
half of the campaign contributions thus far to the candidates. I think this is outrageous.
it
And
is.
it's
It's terrible.
it's legalized corruption.
Right.
So it's not
Yeah.
illegal at the moment.
Absolutely.
But it's corruption.
Well,
it's
and
really
the,
terrible.
the Supreme Court on the Citizens United decision and on subsequent decisions, because I think it was Minnesota or Michigan, said, we see where there is a corrupting influence. That was the standard. Is there a corrupting influence if you let this money into the political process? The Supreme Court said no. Excuse me?
Yeah, I know.
Why does every American citizen know that there's a corrupting influence here, and the Supreme Court doesn't see it?
The majority of the Supreme Court probably. It wasn't. It was just
It's
a
Republican.
5-4 decision.
Right.
So
You know, it could, and-
but I
and-
mean,
and-
you're right, though, Corey. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying the best form, the most likely result, and here I'm going to be partisan just for a moment. The most likely way to overthrow Citizens United and throw out some of the money would be to switch that 5-4 majority the other way.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
one more,
That's
or we need
One
to
or two,
replace
yeah.
the Supreme Court justices as they decide to retire
yes.
or they die with anti-Citizens United
Yes.
justices. I think that's more likely to succeed than a constitutional amendment
Oh,
that has to be
yes.
approved by 2/3 of the
No,
state
you're right.
legislatures.
That's
Both
what-
are viable options, but so my money is on trying to find an anti-Citizens United president of either party, and I suspect only the Democrats can make
Yeah.
that promise with a
Yes,
straight face.
yes.
And
You're right.
we've got to,
And
because
this is-
this
it's critical,
This is
yeah.
nuts, and it's gonna.
It's nuts.
Bob is going to see it. Chelmsford's going to.
And you're gonna see it
You're going
the-
to see it
you're
at the
gonna see
town
it the
level.
local.
You know, they're going to be the moneyed interests are going to be running candidates for planning board before you know it.
Yeah.
And
Well-
throwing serious money in there to get a zoning change.
In 2012, when Senator Eldridge and I passed the resolution calling upon Congress to pass an amendment to the Constitution, what I remembered was a night I was evacuated from my home in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, when we lived in West Concord. There had been a chemical spill at W.R. Grace. They would not let one public safety person on site. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
They wouldn't tell anybody what happened. They wouldn't tell, and we were evacuated.
Happened in
And-
Westford with the train derailment.
and we had members on the Democratic town committee on the time that survived Nazi Germany, and I'm saying somebody's knocking on their.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
and
right.
it was a real loud
Oh,
in the middle of the night and telling them, and we had relatives, you know, in Marshville and Plymouth we could go to, but most, you know, we had to gather up babies and.
Oh,
I mean, it
terrible,
was,
yeah.
and I just thought the minute the Supreme Court came out with Citizens United decision, I thought, what if W.R. Grace had that power now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Acton lost 3 of its drinking wells.
Wow.
Oh no, they lost
Yeah.
a lot.
It was terrible,
And it
yeah.
was in court for decades.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well-
I see it more dangerous at the local level because people don't look for it there.
Yes. Well, just to wrap up quickly
Yeah.
on the Republican thing, I was reading an interesting column by Nicholas Kristof. You probably read him on the New York Times or know of him.
Yeah.
And I thought he doesn't write about politics all that much, he said, but this time he wrote, and I thought he had a good point about if, say, Senator Marco Rubio becomes a presidential nominee for Republicans, John Kasich, the Ohio governor, becomes the VP. If you could get the delegates from Florida, kind of a swing state, and Ohio, a big swing state. Both of them big swing states. That would help the Republicans quite a bit. So maybe that might be a ticket that might help the Republicans if they do that. I don't know, but I was just saying that seemed to make a little bit of sense in terms
That's
of
too rational. I think this is going to be an unpredictable
definitely
free-for-all.
And right now, the way I see it, it's going to be hard for somebody to overturn Donald Trump getting that nomination if he keeps going the way he is. And it's been 4 months now, and I'm
clock
not
is
seeing
ticking,
him.
right?
Yep, and I see him. He's winning in Iowa. He's winning in New Hampshire.
Actually, he's winning in Florida at the moment, and I think
Even
he's
more
leading in
than-
Ohio. So
than-
even as compared to Bush and Rubio,
And
he's
Rubio
number
in
one in
Florida,
Florida.
I know, doubling them. I
It's
know.
amazing.
Every day I'm
Amazing
voting Joe,
stuff.
and they go over the polls and everything. It's a riot. But anyway, quickly on the Democratic candidates, because we have so many wonderful topics locally to talk about.
Yeah.
Gee, we have, of course, Hillary Clinton, Senator Bernie Sanders, Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, former Virginia Senator Jim Webb, and former Rhode Island Governor Lincoln Chafee. Their first debate is tonight, Tuesday night at 8:30 on CNN. Any thoughts about the Democratic candidates?
Well, I'll just offer a dour opinion of Martin O'Malley. I've heard him speak in person twice. Very timid, an anti-Donald Trump in the sense that he's playing it safe. Now, here's a guy who needs to make up lost ground, and he's saying nothing truly interesting. He may say it well, but he's not saying anything interesting, taking no positions. So Bernie is the one who's taken the chances, as you have to if you're running behind. And it's going to be him and Hillary. I don't think Martin O'Malley, fans aside, no offense to anyone, I don't think that's the way this is going to cut. And of the two, I haven't endorsed anyone, but I will just make the political observation that Bernie's going to have to show some legs in the Sun Belt states. He's going to have to go into conservative states where even the Democrats are more conservative and show that he can get some votes. And I'm agnostic on whether he'll be able to demonstrate that, but I think it's a tough road for him, and that's where Hillary over time is going to show some staying power. I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Right, because we know it in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders is way ahead of Hillary Clinton and all the others. In Iowa right now, Hillary Clinton is ahead again. I think Bernie was up there with her a couple of weeks ago, but now Hillary's back ahead. And in South Carolina, Hillary is way ahead of Bernie Sanders and all the others. So you're right, if Bernie can't get something in the South going and the West, he's not going to make it.
You have to also consider the entrance of Biden.
Possibly.
Well, if that happens,
But I'm a little upset at the vice president because he could have come out. What's the game? Hillary announced early.
Well, he's had some real tragic personal.
I understand that.
So he may be. I don't think
I understand that he's grieving.
I think it's a real.
Yeah. You think it's a real?
I don't know. He doesn't call me every night and can help, but I could see why. But I agree that he ought to make it clear.
Yeah.
I like Bernie Sanders holding Hillary's feet to the fire.
Oh, I do too.
Because I like Hillary. I'd like
Makes
to
her a
see a
better
woman
candidate.
president because that would make me feel like, my
That
lifetime.
you could be next.
No, right. No,
No.
not in a million years.
Well, I think you would make a
Not
very
in
nice president.
No, I would not. I don't want to know all the dirty, ugly things that they
I know, it could get-
don't. Blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
right.
But
Hillary,
she needed to start campaigning. She was coasting there for a while.
Well, let me ask you
And-
something, Corey.
Yeah.
Just this is a thought question, but how would a Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton final look in terms of that would be a dramatic contrast, huh?
Oh, fantastic.
Whoa.
It would be a slugfest.
That's what I love all these debates.
Although she's the toughest person in the world, I think.
Yeah.
So she's tougher than
but
Donald Trump. And he hasn't met too many people tougher than he.
He's got more money.
However, I watch all the speeches. I'm sure you watch many of them. I watch them talk on TV. Donald Trump is very interesting when he gives a speech. He doesn't read from a teleprompter, doesn't read notes, speaks from the heart. It's fascinating, right? I think, he got 20, 30,000. That's because people like to hear him talk. Hillary Clinton, she needs to go to Toastmasters or something because I think she's unfortunately a terrible public speaker. Yeah. But all the ums and the ahs, and then reading when she has something she said 10 times and she's still reading.
Right.
She's going to have to change.
She's not a dynamic
in
speaker
a
at
final
all.
against Trump. But this, I will tell you this. You probably saw this too. There was a long tape of her talking about Black Lives Matter to a young African American, and it was unscripted, and she wasn't reading from a teleprompter, and she was terrific.
Yeah. When
So her problem isn't her personal strengths. Her problem is that something's holding her back, and she's overly controlled, maybe by her team, overly cautious.
Right.
Oh, yes.
She's going to have to lose that against
that's what
Donald
it is.
Trump.
She was holding back because she was the front runner.
Maybe so.
And this is what and this is why I would never try to campaign at that level. You lose control of who you are. You know, they tell you how to dress, how to speak, whom to speak to, what to speak about, and you know, it's, to me, you know, when I saw that at a congressional level, and when people asked me, you know, and asked Nikki to run, I said, I wouldn't go near that. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do some great things, but what the cost is to you, to your family.
But if I could just say, there are 3 candidates who aren't controlled the way you're saying. Because, you know, it's true, the campaign manager, everybody tells them, when you go and say this, say that, and don't do this, don't do that. Donald Trump is not controlled
By
anybody by
anybody.
himself.
We know that.
Right? I also think Dr. Ben Carson isn't controlled by anyone. If you
He
listen-
needs someone to control
Well,
him.
I don't know.
He needs
I don't know.
Definitely.
And I also think on the Democratic side, Senator Bernie Sanders isn't controlled by anyone, but his own heart and his own thoughts. And
Yeah, but
I'm
that's
glad.
why
And I
he's-
love listening to
yeah.
Bernie Sanders as well. He's a great public speaker
Yes,
as far
he
as I'm
is.
concerned. So
Do you really think he's not? I said, I think he's
I'm reserving
listen
judgment.
to him
I need
for
to
a
see him
long
in a
time.
debate situation.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
the danger for him, and we're talking about a debate that hasn't happened yet, but as the danger for him is that expectations are actually high.
Right.
The potential advantage for Hillary, because she hasn't been very sparkling, is that expectations of her are low.
Yeah.
Tonight is the night where she gets to exceed expectations, perhaps, and Bernie has to live up to his.
But I think Senator Sanders gets 20,000 or more people at some of his rallies because he's a great speaker.
Yes, he is.
And
Well,
he isn't reading notes and
you're
all this.
right,
And,
but
and what he's saying is really wonderful for the middle class and
Yes,
the
it
poor.
is.
He's looking out for the top,
he's
the
got
bottom
the
90%
he's got the
instead of the
message.
top.
He has the message that I think Hillary in the end will endorse.
right.
Yeah.
In the end, I think you're going to see Hillary channeling Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and she's
I like
often
it,
been
yeah.
there. It's just that for some reason, I think this front runner inhibition prevents her from being true to
And
herself.
if you watch her speaking, like I do many times, it's really not very good at all. Watch her ums and her ahs and her hesitations and her.
She's
sometimes.
thinking too. She's thinking,
Thinking
it
too
thinking
much.
too much.
Overthinking.
Sometimes she'll do a good news conference, a good talk show, but other times, oh my God,
She was great on Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
That was dynamite.
She was, but okay,
That
she was pretty good. However, even she had a few lines, and every time I could see her looking over the other person with her lines, looking and reading
At
her
the
lines.
prompter, yeah.
Watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you can't remember a little line like, but she was okay. It was a good spirit of
was
her
well
to do
written.
that.
Yes, it was.
And pretty good.
That was a
you
lot
know.
of fun.
And that woman who was opposite her on Saturday Night Live is fantastic.
Kate,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, she's
met her
very
at
good.
Kate is
when they were
fantastic.
doing Ghostbusters, or the female
for the
version.
movie. Yeah.
In Boston, I was there for one of the. We could watch it, you know.
Okay,
film
and
it.
she's going to be in
It's
that.
fun.
'Cause Kate McKinnon.
Can I see you in the
Yes.
background?
Kate McKinnon.
No.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well,
you
yeah, she
could
was
do
great.
that, but it's a requirement
Okay.
of like 10 hours in a day, and I went,
Well-
what?
Well, that-
I don't have a day where I can give somebody, you know.
Well, maybe if we could talk a little bit about some state issues and local issues, maybe if we could start with Senator Barrett.
Sure.
I know you've been working on something with homeowners insurance rates, Senator.
Yeah, I am the Senate chair of a special investigations committee with subpoena power. We haven't had to use it yet, but people show up when we ask them to show up for hearings. And I was shocked on this question of the insurance you buy to insure your house. There is no requirement right now in state law at all that we ever hear about a rate increase request until it becomes official and becomes binding.
Wow.
The Division of Insurance doesn't tell the Attorney General, doesn't tell the House of Representatives, the State Senate, or consumer advocates whether they're considering a big rate increase the industry wants. They don't even give us a chance to intervene and protest and suggest that some rate increase might be reasonable, but this is like sky high.
Right.
So we've got no consumer protection, and I'm looking to the House and the Senate to add a little amendment to the upcoming public records legislation that simply would declare that a homeowner's insurance rate increase request is a public document, a public record at the time of initial filing. Yes. I've drafted the amendment. Looking for someone on the House side to see if she can get it in there. But if we could just, if we could just make this,
do my best.
Okay.
This is
if we could just make this a public record at the time of initial filing, then we could let some of them go if they're reasonable, but we would have the option of fighting for the homeowner in other cases. I think you're going to see a change made. I think our hearing, which we had a couple of weeks ago, really exposed a weakness in current statute.
I'm glad you did that.
Thank
okay?
you.
And I want to tell you about something else that the insurance companies are doing. And I was a victim of it. And that is they are sending letters out saying they won't renew your insurance.
insurance.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because your house isn't up to snuff. Now, I live in a pretty nice house, okay? Keep it up, usually. So when I went to my agent and asked him what the problem was, they said, oh, well, your house is peeling. And I said, my house is vinyl. Okay?
Good for you, Bob.
Yeah. And then they said, oh, it says something about the fence. I says, yeah, I need to paint the fence, but is that a reason for...
That's ridiculous.
Right? And
That's
then they said,
ridiculous. Yeah.
oh, and one of your drain pipes are down.
How did they know this?
They
for one
sent
thing?
someone. They sent an appraiser out to.
Basically, anytime someone makes a claim, they're eager to cut you off right at your knees, one claim for legitimate damage that they feel is legitimate, and they'll still refuse to renew your policy. It is outrageous what the insurance company is doing. And I can tell you this, we took a look at a special issue here that asks the question, why do your rates go up? And it turns out they've graded Massachusetts as an easy to increase state because we have more wealth. You know, you can't raise property owners' rates in Mississippi or even in hard-hit heartland states like Michigan. But in Massachusetts, we will tolerate it because we're busy, we have to go to work every day. Our rates go up 8%, 9% a year in homeowners. We'll grit our teeth but pay. So quite apart from the condition of your property, Bob, they're saying, Bob Joyce, you know, he's a busy guy. If we pop him up a rate increase, he'll probably eat it.
Right.
And so that tolerance, that's unfair. That has nothing to do
Guess what the
with the
increase
risk
was?
to your property.
How much was it?
They put me into the state pool, and my premium went from $603 to $1250.
Wow.
My God.
Right.
That is
Because you
my
needed
God.
to paint your fence
Yeah.
and your gutter. I'll
right.
be over
And
tomorrow to help
they
you
said
paint
my
your
roof
fence.
my roof was old. I said, is there anything wrong with it? And they said, no, it's just old. And I had a guy come out this week
my God.
and tell me I can get 5 more years out of my roof.
Yeah. That is unbelievable.
That is.
And
That's
it's happening to a lot of
extortion.
people because
That is extortion.
I checked with my agent, and they said they've been going crazy sending out the letters for the companies.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Boy,
That's too
thank you
bad,
for
Bob.
mentioning
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
thank
we
you.
It is-
really
well,
should
You know,
look at that.
The whole subject is so complicated that we're not
Yeah.
really good shoppers the way
Yeah.
we'd like
Yeah,
to be.
yeah.
And the companies take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Oh, and you
Well-
know the other thing is I can't go to another insurance company. I have
Why
to
not?
stay in the. I have to stay in the.
Because you're in the high-risk pool?
Because I'm in the high risk
Oh,
pool.
once you get in there,
How do
pool
you,
or
is there
whatever?
an appeal process to get out of the high risk?
No.
No.
Well, I'm working on them.
No?
I mean,
good.
Yeah.
there may be, but who can afford to hire a lawyer?
Yeah,
and
I'm
pursue
working
that?
on the fence and the downspout. You know, so.
Wow.
Well,
And then once I get my insurance written, then next year I'll go somewhere else.
thank you.
Good
Thank
luck
you,
on
Bob.
that. Good
Thank
luck
you.
on that.
Well,
Thanks for
can we
bringing
move to
that up, yeah.
Thank you. One of Representative Atkins, I'm glad to see you're working on a hands-free driving bill, I believe. Is that correct, Representative?
Yeah, and I think this year might be the year. It's been something that I personally feel very strongly about, but also the town of Concord has directed me through town meeting
Yes.
to file that. I've been filing this for about a decade.
Really?
And one of the things, we did text, and we put a ban on texting.
Thank God.
But
Thank
you
God
can't
for-
tell if people are texting if you don't have hands free, because they just say they're dialing the phone.
Oh.
And there are a lot of very inexpensive devices you can have for your phone that you don't have to have your hands on the phone at all, and you can still talk. Now, there are a lot of people who say you shouldn't be talking at all, and they may be 150% right, but we're not going to get there. I mean, I've been fighting 10 years just to get both people's both hands on the wheel.
Yes,
And
which would be.
and you drive around and you see people.
It's so dangerous now. It's more dangerous than drunk driving. They said the texting anyway, as you
yeah,
know.
the texting is
Thank
just-
God we eliminated
right.
that, but we need to. But I'm all for that, because how can you drive as well with one hand as with two? I don't understand
Well,
it.
not only with one hand,
I know
but
sometimes people
but if
have
you're
to use it.
holding the phone, depending on how
Yeah.
which hand you're holding
Yeah.
it, and you're backing up, your elbow is up, so it interferes with your peripheral vision, depending on where you're looking. And so, if you don't have one of the I have my car. My daughter teases me, calls it a geriatric car because it beeps if anything's within 20 feet of me.
Oh, that's nice.
It does,
That's
and
good.
has lights flashing
That's
and
good.
everything else.
Do you have a backup camera
A
too?
backup
something?
camera.
Nice.
It has,
Wow.
so I know if there's anything close, but most people don't.
Right.
And they're driving big cars. They're driving SUVs. You
Oh,
wouldn't see
yeah.
a little kid, or
This would be
and
great.
and
So
it's
you
just-
filed it.
Yeah.
And what's the chance of getting
well,
it? Do you have
now-
enough sponsors and everything? Or?
What's happened is it got through last year. It got through last session. It got through Transportation Committee, which was always the hard one.
Oh.
And then it got shipped over to Public Safety, and then there it died.
Oh.
This year, the chair of Transportation Committee has 2 bills going. I'm going to add my bill to that because that just got passed out of the Transportation Committee.
I see.
Maybe I can bypass. This is all inside committee
yeah,
talk.
yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
I think we're in a better position.
Wonderful.
Because
Well-
I think there's an appetite for it over there.
I agree. And she's got a great idea.
Well, great idea. And maybe, I'm sure you thought, maybe if there could be exceptions for emergencies, or say you're in the car and you see somebody
Well,
getting.
you still should pull over. A lot
If you
of
can, but-
a lot of companies, you get
might
fired
help.
if you talk on the phone. If you're in an accident, if they find out that you've been talking on the phone while you're driving and it's their
yeah.
phone, it's not
But
even
if it's a
questioned.
verified emergency and they say they can't pull it, I should think there should
Yeah.
be an exception for
Yeah,
that. At least
there
I've
is.
been reading that by some people.
And
it
there-
kinda, I think it
there-
has a better chance of
right,
passing
right.
if you have that.
And there
Corey.
are ways to program phones
Yeah.
so that they'll do that.
Yeah.
My geriatric car, I can just hit my rearview mirror like that,
Yeah.
and it will call 911.
Fantastic! Wow, boy,
So don't
fancy
anybody
car.
try to mess with me. 'Cause I really-
Thank you for
That's
the
what
tip.
everybody should have.
Yes.
And
yeah,
someday-
everybody should have that.
Yeah.
I've read that within about 5 years, I think Toyota and some of the big cars can have the self-driving cars, totally autonomous.
That's
Right.
what I need.
Well,
That's
we're
scary.
getting-
And then we'll all be
No.
talking on the phone again.
I know I saw it.
Right.
That's great,
But then
and we'll
it'll
be texting
But then
to
it'll be
beat the
fine,
band.
Senator, right? It'll be fine, Senator, because you won't be driving then, really.
That's true. That's
And
the
they're-
key.
You know they're much safer than humans drive. It's a human
I
error.
am a much better texter when I can concentrate.
Yeah, right.
This driving is really a distraction.
I think
Yeah.
I think
I
it'll
look
be
like a second grader texting.
no. Once they have self-driving, yeah, then it's fine.
They're saying that the problem when that happens is the people that don't have it, they're going to cause the accidents.
Oh yeah, they still will.
That's true.
The pe- they like they are now.
Yeah.
I mean, we got how many people die? Thousands every year in the United States from car accidents. Over 30,000, I
Right.
think. And they say this will cut it down at least 2/3
Yeah.
if you get self-driving cars. Of course, by the time this is all like before I get one, it's going to be a long time because I love my 2 cars that I have now,
It'll be a
and I like
geriatric-
driving.
Be a geriatric car for you.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that once you do get 75 years old or
Mm-hmm.
something and above, it is nice to have a self-driving car. You want to visit the
I
family
like
in
it
Connecticut?
now.
Yeah, right.
I
Oh,
don't-
going into
I
Boston
don't
would be
like
great.
I don't like to drive
Who
anymore.
wants to
I've been
drive?
driving since I was 12 years old
Wow.
because you didn't need a
Why,
learner's
the
permit.
farmers?
Well, no, my stepfather said, you're in a car all of your life, and he taught us, he was from Maine. People from rural places
Yeah.
think it's imperative to teach
That's
kids
what I
how
mean,
to run those.
That's why I said farm.
Yeah.
A lot of kids drive very young on
Yeah.
farms and things.
Yeah.
But that sounds good. Well, could we maybe talk to Bob a little bit about the warrant articles coming
Sure.
up? Bob, could you let us know what warrant articles coming up at the fall town meeting might generate some discussion this year, or most discussion?
Well, I definitely see Article 17, which is inclusionary housing zoning bylaw.
Okay, yeah.
And that would allow certain apartments and stuff like that to be built in the commercial and, like central downtown
Okay,
Chelmsford.
yeah.
And the problem I have it is they have a payment in lieu of. In other words, if they don't want to build the affordables as part of that, then they can pay the town, but I don't think they're paying the town enough money.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one that's gonna definitely
Article
be.
17, did you say?
Yeah, Article 17. There's one on motor vehicle excise exemption for deployed military, which I'm really happy to see.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
And the minimum value of personal property now, instead of being 5,000, is going to be 10,000. There's not an awful lot that's really it's really controversial. Let's see. The school department is asking for $200,000 to do a study on all their buildings.
You mentioned that at the Selectman meeting,
Yeah.
didn't you, Bob?
Yeah,
It sounded like
I look
you
at it
weren't
like
a big fan of that.
like a shopping list. You know, it's like, oh, we got all these things now. What else do
That's
we
what
need?
you said at the Selectman meeting. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
What else do we need?
In terms of the facilities in town,
and-
right? You're
and-
saying.
And years ago, I can't remember if it's 10 or 13, when we had the $131 million proposal.
schools.
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
happens when you have a study to go out and study. They come in with everything.
Everything,
Okay. And I really don't. I'm not really crazy about
And
that.
how much is that bill?
That's 200,000.
200,000.
Yeah.
For just a study? It must
Yeah.
be no architectural.
Of all the facilities.
Of all the.
Yeah, of all the facilities.
Oh, okay.
For school facilities.
Yeah, that's a lot.
200,000.
Yeah. Dr. Lang has proposed this. I think it's something that he did in Lowell.
And,
And,
who would get this contract? Some sort of building consultant of some
Yeah,
sort?
like
I guess.
Face, Spofford and Thorndike or something like,
I see. Some-
or a Weston and Sampson
Weston
maybe.
Sampson, I see.
Or there may be companies that are specific to the schools that would probably bid on this. But
And they would go out with for a competitive RFP. So
Right.
it could come in way under 200,000. We don't know yet.
Right,
I think
right.
Paul mentioned that Selectman meeting,
yeah,
right, or something.
yeah.
I hope so, because that's 200,000 is a lot of money. But
Yeah.
to me, it seems like we may need it, Bob. I don't know. But
Well,
why not? We got to look at our schools, as Paul was saying. They're very old now, aren't they? Some of
yeah.
the buildings.
Well, the oldest one, the youngest one we've got was built in the early 1970s, and that's the high school. But since then, we've put on an auditorium. We've gone through the
Oh, no.
school for heating systems and lighting systems, and
Yeah.
that school received a lot of money.
Oh,
so
yeah,
far,
yeah,
you
no.
know?
But some of the other schools,
And
maybe.
actually, Chelmsford's the poster child because of that renovation.
Right.
And yet, most every other town has built an over $100 million school.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. So, my fear is they're going to come in with another elementary school or another high school.
Well, we don't know. Or
It's
maybe
well-
renovations. We
And
don't know.
keep in mind that our enrollment in Chelmsford has been going down for the past 10 years.
So the way they
So-
renovated the center school is great, though,
Yeah,
right, Bob?
yeah,
It looks beautiful.
yeah.
I'm much more in favor of renovation rather than a
Right.
whole new school somewhere,
But you-
which might be
yeah,
2 or 3 times as
But
much.
you recall, we appropriated $18 million for all the infrastructures in those schools. All the heating systems, all the
Oh, yeah.
lights, all
Yeah.
the, so we've done a lot of that work.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll
bathrooms in
come-
the high school and junior highs, all done.
Hopefully that'll come
Yeah,
through in the
yeah,
study, Bob, that we won't be wasting any of that
Yeah,
money.
I'm just hoping that it's not going to turn into
Right. Oh, yeah.
a
Well, it
wi-
wouldn't pass
a
if-
wish list.
Yeah.
And
But if even so, it would still have to be passed
Yeah,
town
yeah,
meeting and the selectmen, the town manager, everybody would have to kind of agree, we need to do all this.
and it might require
And maybe
a debt
an
exemption.
override or something. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then the
might
town
require a debt
voters need to.
exemption.
Well,
Yep.
thank you, Bob.
Yep.
I'll come back
No-
later
no
if you have some
problem.
others.
Yep,
But
no problem.
Senator, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail is doing well, right? And as you
Yeah.
as you know, and probably help with, they're starting the phase 2 now.
Yes,
To head
finally,
us down
right.
from Westford down through Acton.
Right.
Another 5 miles, right?
Yeah.
And did you recently, Carol, former Representative Carol Clevin passed away recently, and the Chelmsford Legislative Delegation made a donation in her name to help maintain the rail trail, which is very nice of you all.
Actually, I was way back in the day when Corey was in junior high and I was in high school. I served with Carol Clevin. So she was a wonderful representative for this town. She really was a terrific human being. And she got, as you know, and I also served with Bruce Freeman, actually, who was her predecessor. This was in '79, in 80 and 81. I left the government for a long time after that. But I knew them both, and she was the piston that got the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail going to honor her predecessor as Chelmsford State Rep. So yeah, so Representative Atkins and I and the other members of the House delegation for Chelmsford put in a modest amount of money to help the
Nice.
Bruce
Well,
Freeman
thank
Rail
you.
Trail
Yeah.
spruce up.
That's
But Carol was terrific. She really was the inspiration. And I'll tell you, the Chelmsford leg of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail is the model. We've had,
beautiful.
we're slowly getting it built south of this town, but this town did it first. And now Sudbury and a whole bunch of folks are slowly putting through their engineering plans westward.
Yes.
But Chelmsford led the way, and it honors a Chelmsford native son. And
Native daughter.
no, and
What do you
Carol,
mean?
Oh,
Carol
yeah,
honored,
yeah, right.
made sure that Bruce Freeman bore
Whose
the,
wife is
title.
wonderful, by the way. She's living here in Chelmsford. I see her at some of the dedication ceremonies and events in
Yes,
town.
she is very.
She's a wonderful, wonderful person.
Well, when I heard that Carol had passed away, and and I served with her in the House, and I had seen all the wonderful work, and there was nothing that the legislature did for her. So I called her
Really?
family and I
Oh.
said, I know we'd all like to do something.
Actually, this was your idea, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To honor her, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, what would you like us to do? What would the family like? And they said the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, which made all the sense in the world.
Yes.
But because they're living, and it's really to honor them also.
Yes.
So I went out and corralled.
She's the one who organized us. This one organized us.
He's always the
Representative Atkins.
easiest.
Well,
And,
we have a wonderful delegation, I think. All 4 state representatives and our
Yeah.
state senator are outstanding, in my opinion.
Well, I
So
had
you're doing
to
a
miss
great
this
job.
ceremony, though. I had a death in the family, so at the last minute. And
Oh, the one for the next phase?
No,
for
no,
the
Oh, for the
Carol.
The
I'm sorry,
dedication.
yeah, the
Carol.
dedication.
I stood in her stead. I made sure she
Oh,
got the credit.
good. Because I went to that, for the next phase, they had a nice party or dedication
Yeah.
right over the Chelmsford border on maybe Acton at the Nera Park. You've been there many
Right,
times,
yes,
right?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful facility over there. And it was great. Jamie Eldridge, Senator
Eldridge,
Eldridge
yes.
spoke, and
Yeah.
the Representative Carmen something.
Gentile.
Yeah, it was a very nice
Yeah.
guy. I met him that day, and anyway, it was very good. I took a bunch of pictures, posted them on Facebook. By the way, if anybody at home isn't on the Chelmsford News Facebook page yet, Chelmsford News, please join. There's over 2,400 members already in in 3 months. So it'd be great if you join. It's free, and everything about Chelmsford is right there, I think. And I'm the managing editor, so
Yeah, no,
I'm
that's-
a little biased about it, but
Actually, it's a terrific
Oh,
innovation.
Thank you. It's part of my little public service. But I thought, Representative Atkins, if we could ask you about the tourism. You're still on the chairman of the
I
tourism.
chair tourism, arts, and cultural
It's
development.
been a while you've been chairing that now, right?
Yeah, well, I chaired, one session and then this session. So I asked to have it again because it is the one place the state makes a lot of money.
with
For every
tourism,
dollar
yeah.
the state invests, we make at least $7 back.
Wow.
And it's growing like wildfire. And we have a governor and a speaker who don't want to raise revenues, and we have a lot of need out there.
By that you mean raising
You know,
taxes, right? Is that- yeah.
raising taxes, because
Yeah.
we've been, or fees.
Or fees, yeah.
We've kicked a lot of cans down
Yeah.
the road so that you don't have that hanging on, when you go out for campaign.
Yeah.
And it's, in my mind, has been irresponsible of us. But if we're not going to raise revenues, at least we can raise more money through the committees.
I see. Wonderful. Well, that's great. Wow, our time is flying by. I can't believe this. Bob, did you have anything else
Yeah,
you wanted to talk
I did.
about?
While the state people were here,
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up the fact that we were expecting $305,000 in snow funding, and we're not going to get it.
You're not going to get it.
No,
Who
I
said?
understand that the governor won't kick it loose.
Well, then you're
He
going to
said
have to write
that was the last
governor.
word that
Yeah.
I heard from Paul.
Well, thank you for letting us know.
We were
And
bringing
this
it
is
at the
news
town
for me.
meeting.
I haven't
Yeah, I had
received
not.
notices from my other towns that snow monies were being withheld.
Yeah, and
So
the other
we'll
thing,
look into that.
The other thing I wanted to bring up was that we talked earlier about the candidates not, being a certain way forward and getting funding and stuff like that. Well, when I ran for selectman, I did that too. I had to, it was hard to run, getting money. And I think the rules are tougher on the local people than they are. But the other thing is that as a selectman, I'm a lot like Donald Trump. I speak out. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, yes.
Probably one of the most outspoken members on the board.
I would say that.
And some people really take exception to it, but I get phone calls all the time from people saying, keep it up, Bob, keep it up. So I just want to pass that along as a...
And you may want to let the people at home know you're going to be cheering the selectmen because Matt Hansen's going to be on his honeymoon.
Right.
Congratulations, Matt.
Right, congratulations.
And your wife.
Right.
Future wife.
Right.
So Bob will be kind of the chairman of the board in a sense.
Right.
You're the vice chair now.
I'm the vice chair, so I'll be making all the recommendations.
And
recommendations and
people
things.
call me and they say, Mike, you remind me of Lindsey Graham.
Do they really?
That's a joke.
Yeah.
I was
I like
suggesting that I
Lindsey.
was unexciting as compared
Oh, I
to
kind of
others.
like Lindsey Graham, though. But,
My
as a
goodness, I
person,
struck
as a human
gold.
being.
No, it was
As a
really
human
meant to be
being.
self-effacing. But
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. But you may also know a little, I don't know, about this $5 million center revitalization plan for Chelmsford.
Yeah.
Do either of you know anything about
Glad you
that?
brought it
Oh,
up.
it's in the bond authorization that we sent to the governor.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But as we've emphasized from the beginning, here we need some help from folks in town who are close to our Republican governor, because the governor needs to sign off to release the money that Corey and I got entered into the bond issue. We want to see that town revitalization money done, but here we're looking at, and I've spoken
Just
to,
like
to
we
Paul
wanted you to
Cohen
get
and to
snow
others about
money.
this. We need to find a few folks close to Charlie Baker, maybe because they're part of his kitchen cabinet, maybe they organize Republicans here in town, maybe they gave a campaign contribution or two to Charlie. We need them to advocate for Chelmsford. It's out of the hands of the Democrats. We did our job, but our candidate for governor, Martha Coakley, got beaten, and now we need Republican friends of Chelmsford to go to work.
I know a guy in Lowell.
To try to get that.
That's a Democrat that I could probably call, right?
No.
We'll leave it nameless.
I hear you. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
By the way, before our show ends, I was wondering, both of you, next year is an election year, right? So maybe we could start
That's
with
what they say.
the senator.
Oh.
Senator, have you decided whether you're going to be running for re-election?
Yes,
Senator?
I'm willing to announce tonight that I'm running.
Oh!
We're making news. We're committing news.
All right, thank you, Senator.
No, I love the job. I'm still reacquainting myself with it. I've been away for years functioning as a business person, but I love being back.
Yeah. Do you still have your business, by the way, Senator?
I do healthcare IT consulting. If you need
Okay.
any work,
Oh,
some of that
good.
$200,000
Ooh.
that they're thinking about settling on the Chelmsford Public Schools, maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Great. Well, thank you, Senator.
That would be
And Representative Atkins, have you decided whether you're going to be running?
absolutely, yes.
You're going to be running.
Oh,
Yay!
yeah.
Great, thank you.
There are a lot of things to finish, and
We got to get you up to 20 appearances on the show. This is your 16th.
that will,
so
I have to.
being a state rep helps, right?
Right,
You have to
right.
do that.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. And Senator, I guess there's something going on in the representative too at the State House relative to this terrible opiate addiction
We're doing
going on
yes.
throughout the country.
Right.
But our governor made it one of his key issues.
Yeah.
Governor Baker, who I think is doing a fairly good job from what I could see as a citizen.
Yeah.
He just seems to be a good guy, a good speaker, going to a lot of places, treating everybody fairly fair. Anyway, so he's working on this a lot. He wants to do something about it, and I do too. See, so what's going on? I know the Senate has passed something recently.
So
right?
here, I mean, the key complication here is that for 30 years we've been fighting a drug war involving drugs on the street, sold through drug cartels and drug dealers, right?
Yeah.
And that's a problem, at least that we're used to talking about. The opioid addiction thing involves drugs you get legally prescribed by your doctor for your pain, who then somehow the drugs eventually get into the wrong hands and get abused. So it begins with an altogether legal exercise, usually in pain management.
Yes.
And working with, and so it involves a whole bunch of folks who are of every class, middle class, upper middle class, working class. All of us, as we get older, have these pains. Many of us get these opioids prescribed. Anecdotally, and it's just anecdotally, what we hear in the legislature is that the doctors are too unthinkingly giving me 30 pills at a time. You know, I go to the doctor for a minor procedure.
Yes,
they give me a month's worth of pills. I take them for 3 days. The other 27 pills, or if it's twice a day, do the math, sit in my medicine cabinet. Some proportion of those pills are going to get diverted and are going to wind up in the hands of people for whom they were not intended. A totally different kind of problem. I think we are addressing it, but it begins with changing doctors' decision-making and having them prescribe pills that really suit the need instead of mindlessly going 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It starts with physician behavior, you might say, works its way down to patient behavior. I think we're just beginning to take intelligent steps, but it's a totally different drug war. That's the point.
I hope that gets passed, Senator. That would be great. Representative, we only have a few minutes left, but I think this is wonderful. If you're working on this public accommodations and transgender rights issue, could you tell us what's going on with that?
Well, there was a big hearing last week, and a lot of very important people testified, from the Attorney General to Congressman Joe Kennedy, who brought in a 14-year-old who testified. And transgender rights were protected in every scenario, and was labeled, if they experienced violence, crime against them, that was a hate crime. The only thing that didn't get done was the public accommodation part. And why that's important is people can't be in the hospital when they're in their families. If a baby is born, they can be turned away, and turned away legally. So they can have a couple of kids, be in a family unit, but can't take their kids into a bathroom because a bathroom is an accommodation.
Oh, really?
And so it's a problem.
Yes.
Because you know, under the United States Constitution, we don't have a section for people who are almost equal. You're either equal or you're not equal, and in every other way they are. And this is where the state, where government is behind, because major corporations and businesses have long resolved this in their HDR departments. The schools are all, equipped. The kids handle it. I don't know if you saw the report that NBC did on children are voicing at a much younger age, 4 and 5 years old, that they are of a different, and the standards, I think, are persistent, insistent, and consistent.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad you're working on that, Representative Atkins. It's one of the many great things that you do at the State House, along with Senator Mike Barrett. And thank you very much for being on the show, Senator.
Happy to be here.
Next time's the double digits, 10 times. Thank you very much, Representative Atkins. It's always great having you on the show.
My pleasure.
I'm looking forward to maybe hosting a debate or something with you next year, and whoever might run.
Right.
Nobody would dare run against you, though.
God.
Right, that'll make it easier. Thank you very much, Selectman Bob, Joyce.
My pleasure, Tom.
And good luck at town meeting. I think it's going to be exciting with you kind of cheering from the Selectmen.
2 sessions.
2 sessions, yeah, nice. Hopefully it'll be over in 2 sessions. What's your guess, Bob?
2.
2, yeah, me too. That's my guess.
Is that your heavy gavel?
And thank you for this wonderful camera crew, Tom and Meredith and Larry, and our great director, Pete Padula. If you have any comments on the show, please send me an email at tcristiano@comcast.net. I hope to see you around town or at town meeting. And please join the Chelmsford News Group on Facebook. And also, if you like arts, we have the Chelmsford Arts Group that I hope you could join. Thank you. Ciao.